I am the stone that the builder refused.
The Boondocks. You know, some comedies just get it right. They create memorable moments and characters that transcend humor to teach us something about ourselves and the world we live in.
Rocket, show me some ID! ID? Oh, that's a fine idea, officer. Can't be too careful. I'm just gonna reach into my pocket and take out my safety.
You know, like the Chappelle Show, it was mad funny, but behind it, there was often a sort of social commentary making us look at the society through David's eyes. And the Boondocks manages to execute this as well as the Chappelle Show. It's a social commentary, critiquing America, but through the lens of African American culture. The series ran from 2005 to 2014 with a total of 55 episodes, but is as relevant today as on its debut, and that's kinda worrying. The Martin Luther King speech in 1963 was one of hope. Hope that one day there will be true equality. Fast forward to 2008, and the US elected its first black president. Well, he was half black, but anyway, who campaigned on a message of hope and the slogan, "Yes, we can." Yes, we can build a better tomorrow. Yes, we can simply do better. But what happened to that movement? Why is the social political climate of the US getting worse? Why has Black Lives Matter become a slogan? I guess one of the first things to ask is, should we be coming to anime for these answers? The fact is, many of our favorite anime, like any other show, are full-on social commentaries. For example, I've recently been, rewatching Death Note to do a video on it, and I realized it's partly a commentary on our prison systems and the death penalty. Would there be less crime if criminals were given harsher sentences? There are probably opposing views on this, but there's absolutely a conversation to be had. And that's what the Boondocks does. Each episode starts a conversation. It's an action comedy, and it's bloody hilarious. But at its core, it tackles an array of political and socio-economic issues plaguing the black community and touches on almost every theme imaginable.
You see the passion. It's a very important movie.
Couldn't see it. White Jesus. Come on, man. It's supposed to be all historically accurate, and they still have a white man playing Jesus? That's some old bull.
From racism to classism, relationships, gun rights, homophobia, police brutality, hip-hop culture, pedophilia, segregation, civil rights, prostitution, gentrification, capitalism, communism, the prison system, religion, and the list goes on and on. The series opens with the Freemans, an African-American family consisting of a grandfather, affectionately known as Granddad, and his two grandsons, Huey and Riley, as they're settling into a quaint, mostly white suburb after moving there from the city. This is the first of many dichotomy in the series. City life versus suburban life, Huey being mature and educated and Riley being an immature, ignorant youth stereotype, the Freemans being black but living in a mostly white neighborhood, Granddad fighting for civil rights, and Uncle Ruckus, he's a white supremacist. It's these dichotomy that provide much of the series' comedy, but also shows that American society, being so full of contrast, is not as equal as Dr. King Jr. would have hoped for. Where the series shines in its critique of society is through its use of the varied black stereotypes. First, we have the main cast, the Freeman family. And here, we have three very different perspectives of African Americans, their views on society, how they interact with the world, and their feelings towards others. Each family member is a perfect stereotype of the modern thinking that dominates social thought and social media. Huey is the educated black man. He's well-spoken, an avid reader, has knowledge on many topics, and is able to articulately explain the systemic oppression of black people.
Tell me what you think about that!
The prison industrial complex is a system situated at the intersection of government and private interests. It uses prisons as a solution to social, political, and economic problems. It includes human rights violations, the death penalty, slave labor, policing, courts, the media, political prisoners, and the elimination of dissent.
But is often shut down with ignorance. Riley is a caricature of a segment of youth in America being immature, glorifying violence, and being rebellious. Granddad represents the older generation. He's lived through it all. He's lived through oppression, but he's integrated in order to make a life better for his family. The wider reoccurring cast continue to shed light on black stereotypes. We have Uncle Ruckus, and what can you really say about Uncle Ruckus? He's the black man that hates black people.
Everyone is welcome to come to Woodcrest, including the African Americans.
Just don't stay too long, darkies.
We also have Tom Dubois, the classic stereotype of a black man that's been indoctrinated into white culture. He's educated, wealthy, with a white wife. These characters are purposely juxtaposed to show that black people are not all the same. And furthermore, the way a minority may act should not be used to judge the entire group. Also, the views of one black person should not be taken as the view of the collective. Finally, we have Ed Wunslow III. I think Ed's character, in contrast with Riley's, is actually the most important explanation to the Black Lives Matter movement. Ed is the grandson of Mr. Wunslow, an obscenely wealthy bank and real estate owner. Ed and Riley share very similar character archetypes. He's rebellious, a criminal, glorifies violence, and very immature. There are a few obvious differences between Riley and Ed. You have age, wealth and race, but I think the most important one is where they will likely end up. In episode 1, it states that though Ed acts like an idiot, he will likely one day be the president of the United States. It isn't explored deeper, but past record will probably be forgiven. It will likely be painted as, he was a youth, he made some mistakes, he's learned from it, this shouldn't tarnish his future. Riley, on the other hand, is likely destined for prison. He'll be labeled as a thug and, worst case, killed by police. And this is what Black Lives Matter is trying to tackle. Riley should also have the opportunity to be forgiven for his youthful mistakes and should not be judged any differently to Ed. I love the series, and my only critique is the excessive use of the N-word, but this is America. I recommend watching the first 3 episodes to know if it's really for you. Let me know if you agree with anything I said, and thanks for watching.